This is Amateur Logic, episode 189 for January 19th, 2024. Amateur Logic is brought to you by ICOM. Whether inside the ham shack or on the air in the great outdoors, ICOM has the radio every ham wants. Hi, welcome to another episode of Amateur Logic. I'm George.
I'm Tommy.
I'm Emile.
And I'm Mike.
And we've got a fun show lined up for you tonight. It's the January episode of 2024. So far, what do you think about the new year, Tommy?
It's cold.
It's
the coldest. Yeah, we've got a little blast of winter here the last few weekends. Last weekend too, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah. Emile, you're shaking your head there. I guess you've got it too.
We've definitely got icicles in the swamp.
And Mike, you're a little warmer than normal up there, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, I have to laugh because up until now, I used to hear people making comments about how cold it was, and I have to remind them that we're above seasonal norms here, and it's only been the last day that it's actually gotten down to where we kind of normally sit. Right now, it's about minus 16 Celsius. And it's getting down to the norm, usually around minus 18, I think, is around the average for this time of year. And then by the end of the month, we'll be hitting minus 28, 29.
What's that, American?
Cold.
Okay, I'll agree. I think they slipped some of their cold weather down here on us.
I swear, it's 28 degrees outside right now.
And that's pretty chilly for down here.
Yep.
Well, let's see. What have we got going on tonight? Well, first up, Tommy, I was going to ask you what you had for us tonight. I happen to know, though, that you're the slacker this month.
I am the slacker of the month.
No.
And I took it serious. I haven't done anything.
And didn't even trim your beard.
He's the slack commander.
I had it bleached out.
Oh, yeah. Well, Emile, what are you going to have tonight?
You know, we really take our swamps seriously down here, and I know we've talked a little bit in the past about some of the POTA and joking with Jeff and Amanda about SWOTA, as we referred to it, swamps on the air, and some of our nets in the past. But we're going to take a look at some people who are doing it.
Okay, is that legal? We're not going to get banned, are we?
No, it's legal,
Okay.
and they're doing it.
All right.
It's a family show.
Yeah, Mike, what have you got tonight?
Well, tonight I'm working on a top secret project that's been a long time in the making, and all I can say right now is, Marty, AD0PO, this segment's for you.
Yeah, he's in the chat room, too.
I've got a segment tonight that I've been holding back ever since Field Day this past summer. So it's something I promised I would do back then. And I finally did it just before
the next field day.
Just before Winter Field Day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, after about, I think it's been about 2.5 years since we saw an update to the last version of PyStar, and Andy Taylor just released one, version 4.1.7, and you can check out the release notes there. Andy makes no bones about it. He does say that this is nothing exciting. It's mainly bug fixes and some updates for the API keys, and that he's also working on some added features to come later, so going to be interesting to see what they are.
Ah, yeah.
Cool.
It will be.
At least we know it's still alive.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We were made a comment about that, I think, Emile's segment recently about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I was working on my hotspot last night.
Yeah.
I dropped it. I've got it kind of up on a shelf up there.
You were literally working on it.
Yeah.
Like putting it back together?
Basically, yeah. The last time it failed, it cracked the corner of the display and it just quit. The display quit altogether. So I've been like operating it in the dark for the last month or
Flying
two.
blind.
But I got some more little modules, and I've got me a 2-color one in there now. So I it didn't want to work at first, and I was afraid I'd bought the wrong modules. But I had to swap the ground in the because they weren't in the right positions. Anyway, it's working now, so I'm back in Pi-Star business, and I can actually tell that I'm doing something.
Maybe you can try that out on the net this week.
That's a good point, and there is a net coming up this coming Tuesday night, and that will be January the 23rd. But anyway, Mike, I think you had another news item
I
tonight.
do, and this one's kind of interesting, and I'm waiting to see whether or not this will really happen, because I've been hearing rumblings about, we're out of IP addresses and we got to get off IP version 4 and move to IP version 6.
Yeah.
Immediately, because we've run out of addresses. Well,
For
thanks
years.
to network address translation and port address translation, we were kind of able to make do with those limited blocks of IP4 addresses, and now Amazon Web Services is claiming that they're going to start charging for IP4 addresses.
Wow. I don't like that.
No.
I don't think anybody does. I mean, and once they do it, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon. And I know my network gear, I would say pretty much any network gear, including Wi-Fi routers made within, say, the last decade, is probably IPv6 ready. But configuring them and setting them up is a lot different than setting up the old version 4.
So can you have an IPv6 address on your
external
and still use IP4 internal?
Sure. I don't see why
Yeah,
not.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
It should be fine.
One of the nice thing about IP version 6 is there's so many available addresses, because the number is so much bigger that basically everybody in the world is going to be able to have their own personal IPv6 address. So it won't be an issue like with version 4.
Cool. Oh, by the way, I'm getting fiber. I think I've already told you.
Yeah.
They're finally running it in the neighborhood here, so in about 3 months I'll have fiber, and no one will be able to tell any difference. Because
But you will.
I don't know that I will.
You will. When you're downloading some stuff, you will.
I've already got over a gig.
When you're uploading some stuff, you will.
Okay. Maybe so.
I've got fiberless fiber at my place that I'm running.
Yeah. You've been running that a while, hadn't you?
Yeah, it's been here for about a year. They directional drilled across the front of my property and ran the fiber and just left it coiled up in a coil where the power, or where the hydro comes into the house, and it's been sitting there ever since. I've never had any knocks on my door as far as, hey, do you want to connect it up?
Yeah.
So I guess you could say I have dark fiber.
Sounds like, so I don't know about up there, but down here, that sounds like a government project to me, Mike.
Yeah, same here. So it's probably probably the case up here as well.
Your tax dollars at work.
Yeah,
It's literally wireless.
Yep.
Wireless fiber.
Yeah.
Well-
Fiber by proximity.
Here's a segment I promised you back at Field Day last year. I had a set of gamer headsets that I rushed out and bought at the last moment because I didn't have any headsets, and I wanted to go hands-free for Field Day. And I did it. And I promised you I would share the details of how you can do it yourself if you'd like to. Now, I didn't mention it in the segment, but I specifically went to Best Buy and bought like probably the only set of headsets they had left that were wired. It seems like everything else is Bluetooth there. that doesn't work with your IC7000. So keep in mind, if you're going to do this yourself, you probably want to use some wired headsets. Just about every year, I like to operate on field day when I can, and I take one of my favorite rigs. It's the ICOM IC7000 I've had for several years. I've actually got two of those, and one of them is my chosen field day rig. When I operate that, I've typically been using the hand mic, the HM151 that came with it, and while that's okay, picking up a mic and keying every time and then trying to type on a keyboard, entering my contact information, it's a little bit of a hassle. This past year, I thought, maybe I could make this a little bit simpler. I don't have an amateur headset, just never had one. And a couple of days before field day, I thought, well, I'm going to do something about it this year. I didn't have time to really order a Heil headset or anything in advance, so I just rushed down to Best Buy to see what I could find and possibly hack together. What I came up with is this HyperX Alpha set of headsets. Now, if you're going to try this, let me say first, you're probably better off just buying a set of Heil headsets because they've got all the adapters you need to fit different rigs and a variety of different headsets. These right here, though, were really the only choice I had at that time. They're $79.99 at Best Buy when I bought them. They came with a microphone attached. It's a noise canceling mic. It's a condenser mic, though, so it does need some power. They seem to work okay. I don't have any to compare it with, so I can't really say for certain. Right now, we've been talking on the Heil PR22 right here. I'm going to switch it over now, and we're going to talk on the headset mic just to see what the difference is. This is a headset mic right here. I'm not doing any kind of EQ or processing or anything on it. This is just the straight audio from it. It's not going to be as good as this microphone, though, and really, you don't want that for talking on the air. You want something a little more tailored to what you're doing. Now, if you just rack chewing, a good mellow sounding microphone is my choice in conditions that are not extremely noisy, where you've got good signals. I like hearing good audio, particularly on HF. However, for contesting, perhaps even field day, you might want something with a little more tailored EQ, particularly to the microphone, so that it cuts through a little bit better. My experiences with this headset right here, it worked okay. The only thing I had to compare it with was the hand mic that came with the rig. They sounded similar. The hand mic maybe had just a slight amount more bass in it, but this set of headsets sounded pretty similar. Now, I'm thinking, the hand mic's probably not the best in a competitive situation, and some tailoring on the microphone EQ would probably help some. Now, you can't just plug these into your rig and they work. It is a condenser microphone, so you got some things you got to take into consideration. I'm going to show you how I adapted this set to be used with my IC7000. It'll probably work with a lot of other rigs, but could be a little different in your particular situation. I'm pretty sure I've shown you this before. I know I've shown it on several field day episodes. This is a little voice keyer box I built several years ago. The IC7000 and a number of other rigs have built-in voice keyer. You can record some clips of voice into the rig and then play them back, so you don't have to keep repeating yourself over and over in field day or some other event. On the IC7000, you can connect in through the microphone cable and have some remote push buttons where you can play back the different voice keys that you've recorded in there. That's what this is. I also put a jack on the rear where I can plug the microphone into it and then just plug this into the rig and use the microphone and play back my voice prompts right here. calling CQ, saying 2 alpha or 3 alpha or 73 or whatever I need to say. Now, I did a few other things while I was at it. I added a push-to-talk button on here where I could key the rig from right there. And on the side, I've got a push-to-talk right here. You could plug in a foot switch and key your rig that way. But I also have an XLR connector where you could plug a dynamic microphone in here, say a boom mic or something, and use that. And this past year, I added another jack where you could plug in a condenser microphone with the idea that I'd be using the headsets to operate with the rig. That way, I've got a hands-free operation. I can flip over to Vox, and it's much easier to type and enter in my log data. Overall, it was a much better field day experience, I would say. I made more contacts than I'm sure I would have otherwise. Now, you can't just connect this into the microphone cable. You've got to do a couple of things inside there so that everything works. This particular headset came with a patch cable that's got 2 different connectors on it. One has some green insulators in there. This is the headphone side so that you could listen. Plug that into the headphone jack on your rig. The other one with the red insulation is the microphone connector. Now, this is a 3-conductor connector, as you can see. We've got sleeve, ring, and then the tip. And it's not stereo. It's a mono microphone, but there's a reason that it's got 3 conductors on it. That is because it's a phantom-powered microphone. This is a condenser mic, so you've got to apply a bias voltage to it. And this is how I connected it. On the left-hand side, the microphone input to the radio comes in. As we go to the right, we see if we go straight, we're through a 1 microfarad capacitor to the tip. That's how audio gets from the headset into the rig. Now, the reason we've got that 1 microfarad capacitor there is because the radio is supplying a phantom voltage on the microphone wire, in this case to power the ICOM microphone, which has a condenser element in it and needs a bias voltage. We want to block that voltage, though, from getting back into the microphone output of our gaming headset here. You'll also notice that 4.7 k ohm resistor there. That's running from the microphone input as well because the bias voltage is coming from the rig there. It's dropped a little bit in the 4.7 k resistor, and then it goes on to the ring. And the ring on the connector feeds the bias voltage to the headset element. So 3 conductors there on the right-hand side of the connection. We've got ground, we've got the tip, which is mic audio, and then the ring, which is the bias voltage. We've got the 4.7 k ohm resistor for 2 reasons there. One is to drop the bias voltage down a little bit where we're not heavily loading the voltage coming from the microphone jack of the radio. But the other reason is we don't want that circuit loading down the audio itself, since they're both coming from 1 wire from the radio. I did some experimenting and found that 4.7 k ohms was the best balance when it came to volume that minimized the loading that the bias voltage would put on the microphone element and also gave enough voltage to power the microphone. So if you'd like to try your hand at connecting a set of gaming headsets to your rig, there's a good starting point for you right there. I can't guarantee it's going to be the same with your rig and the set of headsets that you picked out, but it worked out for me. There again, as I said at the first of this, if you're really serious, you might want to just go out and buy a nice amateur radio headset like the Hiles and the adapters that you need. But if you like to hack around and experiment with things, you can probably make this work. And I did. I took my own advice there and probably made it work.
You probably did.
Yeah.
I have a question for the professor.
Go ahead.
The 1 microfarad electrolytic capacitor that you used as the DC blocking capacitor. I'm just wondering. I've always used bipolar for that kind of application. Do you think it really matters?
Well, if you don't want to take medication, you can use
Bipolar medication.
just a regular polarized capacitor. Now,
I thought you were going to tell me that lithium capacitors were pretty difficult to find.
no, I would have used a non-polarized capacitor if I'd had one, but you can use a polarized capacitor. You see the capacitor there on the left-hand side. That's the positive side of the capacitor. The reason I put it that way is because I know there's a positive voltage coming out of the radio.
Right.
And so I just put it like that. Non-polarized might have been a little better. Or you can take two polarized capacitors and put them back to back. Just, hook the positives together on them, or either hook the negatives together and make a non-polarized. But I don't think it really made any difference in this case.
I was thinking that the polar capacitors probably work better in the cold.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that the cold jokes were just going to run infinitum tonight on this segment.
Yeah.
Emile, you did not disappoint so far.
Well, we run hot and cold.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break, get a message from ICOM, come right back. This winter, make your gatherings merrier, your message clearer, and your connection stronger with ICOM. Whether inside the ham shack or on the air in the great outdoors, ICOM has the radio every ham wants. The ID5100AD is innovation and mobility taken to the next level. Designed from user input, the ID5100AD offers an intuitive user interface experience with an industry-leading touchscreen display. This radio is one of the most advanced dual-band mobiles on the market today. The ID52A is a VHF-UHF dual-bander with D-Star and FM dual functions and is the first handheld amateur radio with a full-color 2.3-inch waterfall display. The new ID50A gives hours of fun and enjoyment working your favorite bands. Easy D-Star settings, band scope and waterfall display, voice messaging, share picture function, and it uses the same optional accessories as the ID52A, ID51A, and ID31A. Explore the world of microwave with ICOM's new SHF portable, the IC905. This all-mode rig covers 2 meters through 70 centimeters, 1.2 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, 5.6 gigahertz bands, and with the optional CX10G transverter, 10 gigahertz. Aim higher and enter the world of SHF. The IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. This is the radio that changed the way entry-level HF was designed. The real HF fun starts here. For the mobile and outdoor aficionados, ICOM's IC7100 is road ready. At home or wherever you roam, Happy New Year from ICOM. For more information about ICOM's amateur radios and to locate a dealer, visit icomamerica.com/amateur. Thanks, ICOM, for sponsoring AmateurLogic.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, I've got a news article.
You
How
do?
about hearing about it. Yeah, I thought this one was pretty cool. This is about our buddy Gordon West, WB6NOA. I saw it on the ARRL site, obviously. Says the ARRL, National Association for Amateur Radio, has become the new publisher of the Amateur Radio License Preparation Books and related resources authored by Gordon West, WB6NOA. Gordon West's popular books, classes, and audio courses have been a mainstay of amateur radio licensing for over 40 years. Current editions of Gordon West's popular license prep books will be available from ARRL and ARRL publication dealers soon. And there's a lot more info on there, but that's pretty cool. I saw that about Gordo. Had to mention that.
Yeah, I was glad to hear that. That should be a very good fit there.
Yeah. You know, when I first started looking at getting my license, when I was searching for study material, that's the first thing I saw. He's kind of a amateur radio national resource, in my opinion, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I think he has got a lot of folks licensed over the years.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And a heck of a nice guy.
Yep. Emile, it's your turn next. I see you wearing a NASA hat, but I don't think maybe this is a Cajun rocket ship that we're going to see here. I don't know. Set this up for us.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, this is the hat I got from when me and my dad went to the Huntsville Science Center. I remember that trip. That was a nice visit to that little place. That was awesome. But yeah, so my segment, we take the waterways serious down here, because if you can't beat them, join them. They're surrounding us. They outnumber us. So all these waterways need to interact with us, and we need to interact with them no matter where we go. So again, one of the guys is actually in the chat room, I see. And I found some people in our local club, local hams here, who take full advantage of that. And I just couldn't help it when I talked to him at our ham fest last year, and when he was explaining to me what they were doing, the first thing that came to mind is what we were talking to Amanda and Jeff about, with this one day doing a SWOTA, swamps on the air, to the summits on the air, from low to high. And anyway, check out what these guys are doing down here, Southeast Louisiana. Hello, George, Tommy, Mike, AmateurLogic.TV viewers. Well, I think we've all heard of POTA. And we know the South takes our boating activities serious down this way. But have you ever heard of SWOTA, swamps on the air? Well, from swamps to summits, I think we've got it covered with these two guys. Check it out.
This is our entrance into the park. Once we cross these lilies, go ahead. We are now in Fairway Park.
I'd say we're officially in the park now. POTA, CQ boat, POTA, it's our boat of POTA, Park 2361. KI5 UPP calling CQ POTA, CQ POTA, CQ POTA, KI5 UPP, CQ POTA, Park 2361. KI5 UPP on Park 2361.
Also 5-9 into Missouri.
Copy the 5-9 into Missouri. This is KI5 UPP. Stand by for the second operator.
Whiskey Bravo 0, Victor Papa Sierra. This is Kilo India 5, Uniform Tango Sierra. And I got you 5-9 into Park K 4080. QSL?
QSL, and thank you both for activating this new state for me. So, back to you and have fun. WB0VPS.
73, thanks for hunting. And stay tuned. We're going to be at another park that hasn't been activated in about an hour or so.
It was supposed to be a test. We didn't even know if this would work. We ended up making 70 contacts. You count the double activator, that's 140 contacts in whatever time we were out here. So the system actually works, and we got a surprise coming for our next activation, but I'm not going to let that one out of the bag yet.
So there's a twist for you on the SWOTA, as I call it, swamps on the air, from different locations here from Mike and Scott. Looks like they made quite a few contacts, and of course, with all that salt water as a good ground, it's bound to work. Looks like they had some fun as well, and really got out with that rig they had set up.
Comes to mind dog paddling for some reason. I don't know why.
I gotta start something up here. Like, we don't have swamps, but we have a lot of wetlands, and they're generally referred to as marshes. So I figure I'm gonna start a moda.
There you go.
If I do it in a boat, I guess I could call it a moda or a boda.
Moda. I tell you what, I was rolling and laughing. Again, I met Mike from our club, but at the Hamfest, he was explaining this to me, and I just shook my head. I was like, I have to get some of this video. I have to get it, just knowing what we've been talking about. And so, yeah, maybe we'll have to do a summits on the air, to the swamps on the air, to the marshes on the air.
Wow.
Good times. And Mike is in the chat room tonight, as a matter of fact. So
yeah, I saw him in there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Is he Aloysius?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
Yeah, looked like a fun time, man.
I mean,
Tommy and I both here, we were holding our breath though when he ran across those weeds with that outboard motor. Just power on through it.
Yep, and he was the inspiration for my article as well. But we'll talk about that when I'm up, if I'm not next.
Okay, well I'm up next, and I can't top swamps on the air.
It's hard to beat that.
Yeah, it's just that's not an everyday thing there. I wasn't expecting it, but I do have this. Copper thieves destroy KITX's radio tower.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Copper thieves temporarily robbed the community of Hugo, Oklahoma of their radio voice after having vandalized the local station's broadcast tower in freezing conditions overnight. According to Will Payne, president of Payne Media Group, thieves broke into the station's transmitter site Monday evening, cut several of the tower guy wires, causing the top half of the station's 500-foot broadcast tower to come down. Look at that. Idiots, man.
Were they thinking that the guy wires were also copper?
No. The thieves cut the transmission line off the tower section that toppled and hauled the 3-inch copper pieces off the property. A portion of the station's tower, the station's main antenna and transmission lines were damaged beyond repair. Now, this was big boy stuff. It wasn't kids out stealing things, which they've had issues with before, Payne said. It was a very dangerous thing to do, and they made off maybe with just over 100 feet of coax. It's unbelievable this happened.
Over that little bit.
Yeah. So, going to cost them $500,000 to rebuild this. The guy stole 100 foot of transmission line, which 3-inch line, that wouldn't be cheap. But they're not going to get much money for it.
No, not as scrap copper. Yeah. And the other thing too that most of these guys don't realize is you got to strip it down to the bare copper. And I don't even think it's solid copper. It's probably copper-cladded aluminum.
No, it's
is it solid?
It's solid copper, but I mean it's got a black jacket on the outside. Then copper. And the center, you've got that spiral insulation going through there, holding the center inside the outer.
Right.
So, and you got to melt that stuff out or get it out somehow. I guess, I don't know. I haven't been stealing any copper and trying to sell it. So.
Hadn't had any lately?
No. So I don't know what all the requirements were. I don't know if that was air dielectric.
It was ladder line when George used to steal feed line for salvage.
Yeah, after you came up with some of that copper clad, you said, this is not worth it. I only got a nickel. Anyway.
It's unbelievable.
That's crazy, man.
More.
Somebody caused all that damage and expense, and they didn't get hardly anything for that.
Few $100 or a few $100 maybe.
I'd be surprised if it was even that.
Yeah.
Actually. I was thinking, probably $20-40 maybe, but
No
Yeah,
idea.
all that work, all that time it took them, and all the damage they did, they could have went and probably picked up beer cans on the side of the road and made that much money, or cut somebody's grass or whatever.
Yeah.
you're going to edit this out, but I'm going to say it would be more profitable to steal a car.
Yeah. Well, not gonna
Yeah,
put any ideas in
yeah, you
anybody's-
might want to edit that out.
Anyway, Mike, you want to set your segment up for us here?
Well, I don't want to give anything away, but keen-eyed AmateurLogic.TV viewers may recognize the basic building blocks of a transceiver, and this is. I'm going to lay out a disclaimer right now because there are so many moving parts here, and I didn't feel right about just throwing it all together and just showing you me making a contact, or hopefully making a contact on a radio. So I went into the detail about how this kit. Well, I guess really calling it a kit is even debatable because it's all pretty much assembled. You're just wiring it up. So to call it a kit, yeah, okay, that's kind of stretching things a bit. But anyway, Marty, 80PO, this one's for you.
BitX 40 meter lower sideband SSB transceiver. Well, it's certainly been a long time coming, and for those who haven't heard my comments over the years, Marty 80PO and I have had a long-standing gentleman's bet to see who could procrastinate the longest in assembling their BitX 40. And for those unfamiliar with the BitX 40, it's a 40 meter lower sideband QRP transceiver project brought back to life by a ham in India, Asher Farron. I purchased my kit back in the fall of 2016 and it has sat in my box of unfulfilled dreams ever since. Here's an image of the BitX 40 main board. Ignore the little red PCB for now. Mine is serial number 412. How many of these have been produced, I have no idea, but because of its popularity, I'm guessing it's a lot. Shortly after I purchased my BitX 40 kit, I had an opportunity to purchase an upgrade kit called the Arduino. The Arduino contains an Arduino Nano and a digital synthesizer which replaces the onboard voltage-controlled oscillator. The Arduino also adds a 16-character, 2-line liquid crystal display, but more on this to come later. One of the advantages of procrastinating assembly of such a popular kit is since it's been available, there have been a multitude of mods and improvement add-ons for the BitX 40. I will be adding a few to my build: an automatic gain control circuit, switching regulator for the Arduino, and a multi-term potentiometer for precise tuning. Here is an image of the BitX 40 schematic. Many of you will be familiar with the basic circuit building blocks, which we'll have a look in more detail. This is the circuit diagram of the Arduino, which will eventually replace the BitX 40 onboard VCO. The RF front end uses a high-performance 3-section bandpass filter for strong image and IF rejection. The 3 poles of filtering provide for a no-tune bandpass filter that needs no adjustment. This next section is part of the broadband bidirectional amplifier. The Q13 audio preamplifier is a single-stage audio amplifier which drives the classic LM3D6 audio ICU1. The 100 picofarad capacitor across the base and collector of Q13 provides for low frequency response. 12 MHz crystal filter follows a cone topology. All the capacitors rounded are 100 picofarad. Just 4 crystals are used to keep the ringing down, and sideband suppression is 40 dB. The receiver sounds exceptionally clean because of this crystal filter and the low noise oscillators. For the purists, a voltage-controlled oscillator that covers 4.8 MHz to 5 MHz to cover the 7.0 to 7.2 MHz portion of the 40 meter band is supplied, but the Arduino makes the BitX 40 drift-free and precise tuning easy. One of the must-have mods for me is an automatic gain control. There were lots of ideas and suggestions for the addition of an AGC to the BitX 40, but one offered by Kit Projects won me over. Their kit is actually fully assembled, so you just have to install it. The PCB is designed so that it only requires cutting one trace and scraping the solder mask off the BitX 40 PCB. The AGC board is then soldered directly onto the BitX 40 PCB. I especially like the solder pads for the addition of an S-meter and an RF gain control by wiring up a potentiometer. A 3-position DP3T toggle switch is included. This provides selection of slow, fast, or off AGC. I mentioned earlier that the AGC board has provisions for the addition of an S-meter and an RF gain control. This image illustrates the various connections to the AGC PCB. Note the solder bridge jumper that is required when not using an RF gain pot. The Kit Projects AGC board is based on Don ND6T's AGC circuit design. If you head over to Don's website, he explains it in great detail. I had set out to hack my own BitX 40 enclosure as many others have done, but I found a company also located in India that makes these really nice silk-screened enclosures that I could not resist. Since I'm adding the AGC PCB with its provisions for the addition of an RF gain control, I felt that having the RF gain control on the front panel was more useful than having the mic gain, which in my opinion you rarely have to adjust once a mic has been set up for the transmitter. That being said, I'm relocating the mic gain control to the rear of the enclosure. Also, since this is seldomly used, I will also need to drill a hole for the 3-position AGC control switch. This enclosure comes with all the mounting hardware and even has thread inserts in the enclosure for the mounting screws. I was also pleasantly surprised to find the supplied speaker to be made in India. Judging by the size of the speaker magnet, I would suspect that it will provide good quality audio. Here is the enclosure's supplied components. 4-ohm dynamic speaker, knobs, power switch, 3.5mm miniature phone jacks for mic and headphones, potentiometers for mic and received audio, power jack, power plug, miniature fuse holder, SO239 chassis feed line connector, and mounting hardware for the BitX 40 PCB, and clips and screws for mounting the speaker to the top enclosure. Other items pictured are the 3-position AGC switch and mounting hardware. Speaking of Arduino, this image shows the 16-character 2-line LCD, the Arduino PCB with pre-mounted Arduino Nano, wiring with mating connectors for the BitX 40 PCB, mounting hardware, and a clear acrylic lens for the LCD plus hardware. Whew. Well, that's just about everything we need to know for assembly. I'll set out finishing assembly and wiring it up for the next installment. Hopefully when I power up the BitX 40, it doesn't send out smoke signals. 7.3 for now from VE3MIC.
Okay, Marty, and notice he hasn't completed it yet. You can still
Yeah,
beat
there's
him.
still time.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
I haven't lost the bet yet,
No.
technically.
Well,
so next month.
Well, next month, I had mentioned to George about this officially according to the schedule on the Slacker next month, but not wanting to risk losing the bet, I decided that I'm going to continue on with the build, and hopefully there's a lot of stuff in the software for that radio, so I'm going to have to see how long this segment actually ends up being. There may be a third, so
Cool.
we'll have to wait and see.
well,
There's still hope, Marty.
yeah, that Tommy and I were talking about that. You said you bought that in 2016. Hadn't the band plan changed since you bought that kit?
The band plan hasn't changed for that particular portion of the band that radio's for, but I will say this: sadly, they no longer make the BitX 40.
That's what I was thinking.
Really?
Yeah, they've got upgraded.
It's gone way beyond what the Arduino added to the BitX 40. They now have the micro BitX, and I think it's in. I think the latest version is version 6. So basically, it's got multi-band, color touchscreen,
Oh, nice.
and there may be a little bit more power output too as well.
Wow. Well, cool, Mike. I'm glad to see you getting the old spirit and getting right with the program there.
Well, I have a problem now, George.
Oh,
That's 8 years.
There's a little bit of an empty cavity in my box of unfulfilled dreams, so I'm going to have to get busy and start ordering some more stuff to fill it.
You always got Dayton if you're going to go there.
yeah.
That's true.
Speaking of Dayton, who's planning on going this year?
I'm undecided yet.
Same.
I know
You're
Chip,
going?
K9
Yeah.
MIT, has already got his ticket.
I'll be going. I've committed to streaming the Contest University again this year. So, just did it like 2-3 days ago. So I know I'll be going now. And
I haven't committed, but
yeah.
odds are pretty good. I'll be going down with cousin Jerry V3 EXT again this year. So it'll probably happen. I just haven't committed fully yet and made any preparations.
Yep. My tip to everyone, because I've been to a number of hamventions now, and best tip I've got for you, and this one I came up with last year, remember where you park your car. Yep. Very important. On the other hand, if I had remembered where I parked it, I probably would not have seen Jocelyn and Chris, because I was walking around trying to find my car and ran into them. So otherwise, I probably wouldn't have seen them. But,
Didn't they make a movie about that?
Dude, where's my car?
I made one last year, I think. Yeah.
You made the
I felt
sequel.
like I did. Yeah, the sequel.
The only advice I had from my first and only Dayton visit so far is don't spear the people on the bus with your 102-inch steel whip.
That, yes. And
They get aggravated.
Carry $2 because you're going to give
$2.
one away to the bus driver as a tip.
You always have some money.
Yep.
I think I almost shish kebabbed Dan N9 LVS, or what's his call sign again? N9 LVS.
Yeah.
I was on you know how they have the golf carts that shuttle people around from the parking areas to the to hamvention grounds. I was riding on the back of one with cousin Jerry, and cousin Jerry had already been to the flea market area, and I think he bought a couple of 6-meter Ringos, and I was hanging on to one of them, and I wasn't paying attention. And then the cart kind of turned over towards where Dan was walking, and I had to pick the antenna up to avoid hitting him.
Well, that's good. I'm sure he wouldn't have appreciated being ringoed.
No, if I go, I might consider actually driving this time. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to look at it and see. I don't know.
You ought to go, man. How many years has it been since you've been?
Just right before the COVID stuff came, they didn't have it. I went to the last one.
How can you live with yourself?
I don't want to jinx us, but last year the weather was absolutely perfect. I couldn't
And
ask
there you go.
for
It's going
better
to
weather.
snow every day.
Yeah. It snowed one year I was there. We were there. Yeah. Yeah, the weather was good. It was a little hot to be sitting out, and talking for like an hour like we did. It got a good suntan. Lasted me all summer.
I'll have to see if there's any seats for sale, Tommy, in the cheap old Ram.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm mighty hungry for a smoked pork chop sandwich.
Oh man, you had to bring that up.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, they were there last year too.
Yep. They were good last year.
That was so good,
things,
man.
That's worth a trip up there just for that.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah. Emile. You've got an update for us here, I think.
It's a post from a guy I know well, and it's inspired by something that's just totally unexpected. You gave advice tonight in your segment, George,
yes.
And it looks like I took you up on it without even realizing it.
It looks like you did.
Oh, cool.
So I upgraded my Go box here for getting ready for winter field day. And speaking of that, before I say that this is all inspired also not just by you, George, but by Mike, the guy in our segment, because at our summer field day, he had his rig and set up out there in the field and had all of this nice equipment. And I said, okay, I got to do it. So you're absolutely on the money, George. Bob's got this figured out with the connectors, the adapters, and making it good. Plus the audio, to me, is still second to none. So he's just got it going on with these. I tried to buy this setup for and while I was in Huntsville, but they didn't have the cables and everything there, so I just waited it out and finally got off the wallet.
Yeah.
It's not compliant at all, I can say that, but it's worth it for me.
I think you're gonna have to change your moniker there, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Your handle.
Wow.
Tagline.
Yeah.
Well, it looks nice, Emile. Let me ask you now. You have operated with this setup, I'm sure, by now. Do you like using a headset over holding a hand mic?
Yeah. Yes. And I guess for I don't know that I would do it with the Vox combination. I like the switch, that little hand switch there. Is I know some people do the foot thing, but I got the hand trigger switch, and I think it's going to be really great for HF. I haven't done much HF work with this rig setup yet, but I was on the some of the local repeaters here, and I set it up just to do it. So, what are you thinking there? Because I know your headset. I mean, it sounded good from what I heard. Yours sounded good.
Yeah, I actually talked to you on field day. We made a contact.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know if Vox was going to work or not. I really don't use Vox. But I tried it on the 7000. I just dialed it in there where it seemed about right. And it worked pretty much flawlessly. I don't think I ever keyed when I didn't want to.
Except when your buddy was talking to you.
Yeah.
You need it on the air sign with that thing or something.
I have one now. I'll have to hook it up. But, it worked correct. Every time I intended to talk, it keyed and stayed keyed for the entire time and then dropped right out. It was like AI, Emile. It was.
I've got a cheap old man compliant buying tip, if you want to hear it. So I've always used a foot switch because I find it convenient, because generally I still keep paper logs, and it leaves my hands free to write with, and make adjustments on the radio during a cue, so I don't have to worry about hitting a push to talk switch with my hand. So I use a foot switch, but I found, and you can find these all over the place on eBay, AliExpress, foot switch if you look for a foot switch for a tattoo machine, they're really inexpensive. They're about $6 or $7, I think. And they even they're already pre-wired. They even come with the 1/4-inch phone jack or phone plug, I should say, on the end of the cable. So you don't have to do anything to them. You just plug them into your radio and away you go.
Sounds kind of painful.
I got a foot
It doesn't
switcher,
actually
Bob.
tattoo.
Yeah, just about any foot switch will work. It's just a momentary. So I've got some somewhere around here.
I've got one still in the box I've got at Radio Shack years and years ago for a tape recorder.
I used to use one all the time with when I used to talk on 2 meters a whole lot. I used it constantly, but I don't know. The Vox worked out okay. So, and I'm set up to where I could just plug in a foot switch and use it, but I haven't found it, and I'll probably just stick with the Vox now. It worked so well this time around. I didn't know it would.
I don't think I could use a Vox because most of my transmissions would be, why isn't this thing working?
Yeah. I don't think I said that, but I really can't say what I didn't intend to say. I'd just leave it right there. I guess that's going to do it for tonight. Full show there. So far, 24 is looking like an okay year. It's just cold.
Yeah.
And we know that'll change.
Yep.
No doubt.
Soon. Actually, this next week's supposed to be pretty warm.
So any final thoughts, Tommy, before we get out of here?
No. Don't forget about the net Tuesday. Mike and Marty will be calling the net. Look at the usual social media places. We'll post for it, or Tom will before the net. So anyway, and I'll be there. Hope to hear some of you guys on there.
February the 2nd and the 3rd will be the Capital City Hamfest in Jackson. Are you coming up, Emile?
Which day was it again? What
It's
date?
February the 2nd and 3rd.
That's actually, I think that's doable. That is absolutely doable.
Come on up.
Oh, don't forget Winterfield Day, the 27th,
Yeah.
which is next Saturday if you're watching this live.
Yep. Emile, any final thoughts from down there?
Let's see. We've got a few thoughts here.
Yep.
You got to keep it dark and cheap.
I don't think you need to put that mug in your truck and start carrying it around.
Yeah.
And stay warm. That's the other thing. So,
Yes. Mike.
Well, no definite plans, but I'm looking forward to actually doing some wiring up on that BitX 40 and firing it up for the first time. Hopefully, I won't let the smoke out.
Nah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that myself.
Yeah, me too. I've heard a lot about the BitX 40, but that's pretty much it. I've heard about it.
Yeah,
they've been around for a while.
Yeah.
And even Asher, or he mentions that he makes no bones about it. He doesn't claim to have invented it. The BitX 40 existed well before he picked it up and ran with it, but it's been around for a long time, and it's kind of one of those kits that, although there's a lot of SMD on there, a lot of the components are through hole. And the other thing I like about it is it seems to be organized, as you could see during my segment, where I kind of outline the sections of the PCB. It's not so jam packed together that you can't really figure out what circuit belongs to what. So it's a good learning kit, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
My first exposure to that was listening to Solder Smoke. You remember that? Bill Mira talking about that. And,
Yep.
That's back when I first got my ticket.
Yeah. You mentioned a moment ago about the Logic Net coming up.
There we go.
It's coming Tuesday night.
Yep. To all the usual places.
Another thing we want to mention is, it's the time of year. Yeah. You can see it coming a mile away, can't you? It's the time of year.
Time of year, all right.
You'll probably be wanting a shirt.
It's pretty cold out.
You can tell it's cold when we've got long sleeves on.
We're not doing shirts and skins like in high school now.
No, not anymore. Anyway, where could you find a shirt?
You can get a shirt at shop.spreadshirt.com/AmateurLogic. You can get coffee mugs, keep yourself something nice and warm to drink. There's hoodies if you get even more cold than that.
Yeah.
So a lot of cool stuff on there, so check it out.
Yeah. A mile away, huh? If you want to find out what's going on throughout the month, or when the next episode's going to be, or maybe what people have been doing, you can find that out, or not doing. You can check us out at one of our social media sites, facebook.com/group/AmateurLogic.TV.
You can follow us on Twitter or X at AmateurLogic.
Or
you can even go to groups.io/G/AmateurLogic and get some communications from us.
Yep. We're going to have to come up with...
Or you can just Google it.
Yeah. We're going to have to come up with one more social media activity. So there's a...
Well, it's on. We're on Instagram too. That actually, there's an Amateur Logic Instagram account. Although I usually only post on it when I go to a Hamfest or something.
Yeah,
like
how many years has that been then? Back before COVID?
Maybe. There's a Hamfest coming up though, so I'll post something.
Okay. All right. Cool. And you might want to know what we talked about in a particular episode. Yeah, I can't remember. Well, when did...
I've actually used that a couple times last week myself.
Yep. I use it from time to time. That's the AmateurLogic.TV/wiki, where you can get all your show notes personally curated by Dean Martin.
AmateurLogic.TV/wiki.
Yep.
I know I'll be using it to find those special snake killing hoe episodes in the future.
Yep. You know, I actually used it for that, I don't know, a few weeks ago. I can't remember where, but for some reason I had to find that, Emile. I don't remember why. But
I needed to use it. I think it was for the last segment, the Christmas show. And I was looking for some footage from an earlier version, and I didn't know which actual Amateur Logic segment it was in. And I think I may have asked you, and then you politely reminded me, why don't you check the wiki?
Yep.
And I did, and it came up right away.
Yeah. I don't know if you could find it with the keyword snake or not.
Probably not. It's most of the stuff's in there's the description that you gave me, and then links and stuff, and sometimes there's a little extra, but most of the time it's the descriptions from the show.
It's a Chat GPT would find it,
Yeah,
because we certainly talked about it enough times.
I'm going to have to go on there and ask it to find me a song about it.
Make you a song?
Yeah, well, there's already one out there.
Oh.
Every time I use it, I want to tell it to go make me a sandwich.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Join us around the middle of February. We'll have another one. Mike will have completed the BitX 40 and got his DXCC.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
QRP.
breaking some new ground, covering some new frequencies. So next time ought to be kind of interesting too.
7-3.
7-3, everybody.
7-3.
7-3.